Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Well, that very familiar hymn, Amazing Grace, as you probably know, was written by John Newton, a seaman, a slave trader turned Anglican clergyman. I thought about John Newton as I've been thinking about our psalm for the week, the lectionary psalm. It's Psalm 19, particularly the first 4 verses. And I'm going to read those for you now. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard, yet their voice goes out through all the earth. Psalm 19 is one of the many psalms of praise. It is, in these verses, you get the sense it's a psalm of God's insuppressible praise. Insuppressible praise. It's almost paradoxical, right? There's day to day pours forth speech, no speech, no words, no voice. The voice isn't heard, and yet their voice goes out. It puts me in mind of the reading during Holy Week as Jesus enters Jerusalem and the crowds are roaring, waving their branches, and the Pharisees comes running, exhorting Jesus, tell your disciples to be quiet. And he says in response, if these people were quiet, the very stones would cry out. Of course, there is no voice to hear from the stones, and yet they are the creation of God. They reflect the insuppressible glory of God. As I read the text, it also makes me think that perhaps the voice is not heard simply because we do not hear it. We don't want to hear it, or we choose not to hear it. And yet, day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. The voice goes throughout to the ends of the world. John Newton and Amazing Grace, by the way, I thought of other hymns like All Creatures of Our God and King would have been perhaps better for this evening in these verses. All creatures of our God and King, or perhaps Oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing. But both of those hymns really ask for a piano, if not a pipe organ. And I do not have the ability for either of those instruments, and my son is unavailable. So I decided that Amazing Grace and my old 6-string guild guitar would be adequate as we talked about these 4 verses this evening. John Newton lived a very dramatic, traumatic life. Once he, and this was a very dramatic, not just a moment, but a time of life, when he encountered and was transformed by the mighty power of God. Now, he may have recognized that in an instant, but he felt it the rest of his life. And so John Newton was determined to live a life praising God. In this particular hymn, praising God for his amazing grace that saved a wretch like me. He would write other verses like, Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. For our gospel reading this week, we are going to read and hear how Jesus enters the temple and cleanses it not only of the money changers, but also of some misperceptions, misconceptions, and some narrow-minded thinking. We're going to hope, I'm hoping at least, the passage can move us, awaken us, arouse us, maybe inspire us to awaken from any type of apathy or complacency that we might have, and in its place be more zealous with the praise of God. But in the meantime, we're going to close these moments together with the last verse of Amazing Grace. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amen.